All right. Hey, good morning. You can come off mute now.
Oh, we're loud.
We are.
Good morning.
Hey, Hector, how are you? Good morning.
Hey, doing great. How about you?
Doing well, doing well. Holly's in here dancing with me this morning. She's making me look really lame, which is just fine. I mean, it's not hard, but she's got it going. I think I'm just going to have to switch the camera view next time and have her do the intro music.
That's cool.
Of course, she's not listening to my licensed streaming music. She's listening to something a little bit more known.
I don't know if it's more known, but it's just on my phone.
Yeah, fair enough.
Known to me.
Well,
Howard, I'm really worried you're not thinking at all. You haven't moved, but that palm tree looks great. Where are you?
So let's see, that's an old picture from a family photo shoot in Charleston a few years ago.
Nice. The
Yeah.
photos. Beautiful.
I probably need to update it,
I need to update all mine. It's fine.
but it's a pretty cool picture, so I like it.
It is cool. Always palmettos make me nostalgic. I lived in Florida for a long time. So I'm like, oh, palm trees versus Atlanta traffic.
Yeah, amen to that.
there's a very small palm tree near my house that somebody's got that they keep alive in front of their house that I run by. And they've also got a couple cacti. So we do have some warm climate foliage here.
I don't think prickly pears are native to Georgia. I could be very wrong about that. I'm not a botanist or whatever those people are, but there's a lot of them in the state of Georgia. Whoever brought them here, they took over.
That may be what it is. It may be a prickly pear. I couldn't pick a prickly pear out of a lineup. I could tell it apart from an old man cactus. If you told me one's prickly pear and one's an old man, then I could tell you which was which, but that's about it.
Well, anytime you're bored, I'll sign you up for a volunteer webinar with my mom on the different types of cactuses.
Thanks, appreciate that.
And
Hey, maybe she'd be a guest on Product Coffee. We figure out a way to work that into product strategy. I'm sure we can. So today I was looking at the registration list for the Zoom meeting, and we've got everybody who's signed up is friends of Product Coffee, has been around for a little bit. Almost everyone is a premium member. So introductions we'll do a little bit differently today. And we'll get in, and we're just gonna pretty much kind of carry that theme all the way through the session today. We've got Product Camp coming up on October 15th, which is a week and a half away. And we just finished out, well, we didn't finish, we did our stakeholder workshop last week, stakeholder mastery workshop. And we went so deep on a couple of topics that we decided to split it into 2 full sessions. So we've actually scheduled the follow-up session for the 21st, which is the Friday after Product Camp. So if you didn't make the first half, I'll get the recording out today if you're a premium member, and the recording will be available for you to go back and watch the first half. You'll have access still to the Miro board and all the assets, and then we'll come back on Friday the 21st and finish out the actual communications plan from the Stakeholder Mastery Program. And if you haven't joined, it's not too late. You can still join Product Coffee Premium at productcoffee.com and jump into that, and you'll get the recording for the first half of the workshop, and you can join us live for the second half of the workshop on the 21st. But today, I still want to know what has everybody's attention. So I would love to hear from you. And then we've got a few topics that I've picked out. Every week at Product Coffee, we have a question on the registration form. What's a product management challenge that you're trying to solve for? And we get a lot of those questions, and those guide a lot of the programming that we do here. But sometimes it's good to just take some of those questions and hit them head on and talk about them as a group. And some of the folks that we have on the call today, looking at Holly, Hector, Howard, Jim, Ken, and George have been around the block a few times. And I say that in a positive way. And so I think it'd be great for us to pull out some of those questions from the Ask Me Anything bag and just kind of talk about our different perspectives on it. But before we do that, I do want to do our regular kind of, I want to hear what has everybody's attention today. I want to start with Hector. Hector, welcome back. It's good to see you. What has your attention today?
Well, just wanted to at least kind of find out what are some of the topics that are coming up for ProductCamp Atlanta.
Okay.
And I'm planning on being part of ProductCamp Online, which is the second event online. It's happening also later this month as well. And just looking for some of these trends. One of the questions that I have actually for today, and I wasn't really sure if we have anyone who's been impacted, but this post-COVID-19 economy, which has been called either shrinkflation or skimflation, depending on what you're selling in the market. How is that impacting you as a product manager? And that's really, the main question that I would like to, put out there and see if anyone is impacted. I don't know if you've been seeing, but at the beginning of the year, we had a lot of job openings in product management all over, a lot of remote jobs as product managers, which was great. Recently, I read that we're at an all-time low in new job openings all the way across in US. We went all the way back to 2020 type of new jobs available right now. And that's going to be my guess the rest of the year. And a lot of people are already preparing for, what everybody has been talking about, an impending recession coming up in 2023. And, just wanted to find out how that's impacting product managers that are trying to sell products in different markets.
That's a great question. I hadn't heard the term shrinkflation before.
Yes, it was actually, so shrinkflation is if you're a packaged goods, we're paying the same for less. So if you're looking at, buy whatever we buy at the stores, whether it's BJ's, Costco, we're paying the same price to fool us, but we're paying for less. We're getting less for the same money.
Yeah.
So,
a pound of sausage is now 14 ounces.
Yep.
More
Now,
importantly, a gallon of ice cream is not a gallon of ice cream anymore, Jason.
That's correct.
There you go. That's exactly.
That's correct. And it's like, if you don't pay attention, we're paying 30, 50% more for the same thing that we normally consume. And skimflation is if you're a service provider, so your products are services, you're paying more for less service. Like airlines, for example. Have you guys been traveling lately?
As a matter of fact, yes.
Yeah. And just going across what used to be, a few $100s, now it's twice more. And often you find out that at last minute that your flight is canceled while you're already waiting at the gate at the airport with no warning. It just happened to me as I traveled to Texas last month. And on the return trip, I got caught up in an airport for over 6 hours, what could have been only a 90-minute connection time. And it's all because airlines are selling flights, and invariably, if they don't have a certain fill factor, they just write out, cancel them, saying we don't have enough staff, and then will move you to a different flight later on, and you're stuck at an airport in a very noisy environment. It's not a very pleasant experience at all. And everybody's doing it. Even the top airlines are doing it right now here in US. It is a nuisance. And now if you're looking for holiday travel, this is going to continue through the holiday. And I think it's going to really ruin a lot of people's holidays because you're paying a lot more for really bad service.
So, yeah. So that's a really interesting question. And I know one of the people that we have registered here today who isn't here yet has got some experience in consumer packaged goods as well. But there's two ways that I'm really kind of curious about that is from a product management standpoint. And we've also got a couple of folks who are in a space who are in a space of agency work where they work with a wide variety of clients. And I'm wondering, specifically if you have got experience, if anybody's seen that, where you're having to make some hard decisions about what you're putting into packaging for products, what you're delivering for the same price, this shrinkflation concept. Hector, your examples were really around the consumer space, but is it also happening in the B2B space? Is it happening in the software space? How is everybody experiencing that? I'm really curious.
Well, there are B2B service providers. I mean, you talk to about like cybersecurity services for firms that want to, they're experiencing the same thing. Right now, what's been happening is technical talent is very expensive. Everybody has been shifting, and they're shifting to get paid more, and probably in the same industry often, and there are those industries that people are just leaving industries and they won't come back. That's what experts are saying. And so trying to get new talent in, now you're going to have to pay market prices. Well, wages is your number one cost in your structure when you're a service provider. And when you need to hire to service all your clients, you need to readjust your pricing. And this is what's happening with, in the skinflation economy. Services, they're offering less, and you have to pay more because cost structures are higher, wages are higher when you need people to deliver the service.
Yeah. But thanks for defining those. And I'm going to do a couple things here as we go. I want to pivot over to let's pivot over to you guys turning off your cameras. You're killing me. Let's pivot over to Matt and say, Matt, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what has your attention. But I'm also curious to know on Hector's question, are you experiencing having to think about that shrinkflation or skimflation, or thinking about repricing as part of your product strategy or any of your clients' product strategy? How are you addressing that and leaning into making those evaluations and trying to deliver value at the same time?
Yeah. Hey, good morning. And yeah, that's a huge question. I like it a lot. So for those you guys who don't know me, my name is Matt Gross. I am the lead solution owner with Rocket Partners. We are a tech company here in Atlanta. Our big client is Circle K. I am kind of embedded within Circle K. We run a bunch of digital and innovation type products for them. So, what has my attention at the moment is continual trade-offs between what do we put into a tech? When is it okay to launch? When are things good enough? And continuing to have those sort of discussions. But I think we've covered that one here before. So I want to address that other question. I don't see a lot of my products are sort of behind the scenes and technology related. So I don't necessarily see the direct consumer impact like you would with shrinkflation. What I have seen over the past years is a couple of our clients getting what I would call more selective on what services that we offer, and what they generally want to do. They start to focus much more on price. And what we've ended up doing, and I don't know that this is the right answer or not. This is sort of specific to the, if you actually have client, if you're kind of in a consultative role, we've ended up taking little pieces of what we normally do and giving it back to the client and saying, well, we can do this for you, but we can't do it all for you. And so just as an example, one of the things that we've, they were so real conscious on costs for something. We said, well, if you guys run integration testing, we'll deliver our piece of software, you guys can go through and you do the integration testing rather than us. And that's, that was a decision they made, and something we offered based on sort of price sensitivity. And I would argue it hasn't gone awesome, but it is, we see it. I think what we're ultimately talking about is sort of like, how are prices affecting, and the amount of services we offer with those particular prices. So I think it's kind of the spirit of what you're after, just on the business to business side here. So we've definitely had to sort of cut back on our total offering in order to meet what the clients are looking for here.
And so it is affecting you in a slightly different way.
Yeah. I
And
think
in
it's
services
the
space, it
same
would.
basic thing though, right? I mean, people are, a year ago, everybody was like, oh, we got all the money in the world and we're going to go out and build and grow. And, anyway, yeah, I think so.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you. And we are going to come back around to your what has your attention, because even though we've spoken about it here before, I don't think we've talked about it quite in this format with kind of this roundtable discussion. So I do want to come back to that as we pivot into the post 8 o'clock top of the hour as well. So
Awesome.
and we'll do a little bit of that with Hector's question as well. But I do want to jump over and just to kind of bring some of those who are just joining us up to speed. Today's a little bit different kind of a program. Just getting back to when we first started Product Coffee. Product Coffee was just, hey, let's get together on Wednesday morning with a cup of coffee and talk about product management stuff. And that's what we're doing this week. And so from the folks that we have here, we got quite a few folks that have been around the product management scene for quite a while. And so I think it's going to be just a really good time for us to sit down and talk about the stuff that we're pretty excited and passionate about. Hector asked a question. He posted it in the chat as well for those who joined, but it may not still be on your screen. But how has shrinkflation or skimpflation or the post-COVID economy impacted product management? Where shrinkflation is taking products and reducing the amount of what is sold, but for the same price. So a great example was a few years ago, you'd buy a pound of sausage at the grocery store. Well, now that same package has 14 ounces of sausage, or Holly brought up the example, or a gallon of ice cream isn't quite a gallon anymore. They're just taking a little bit out of the package to give you the perception of the same price, of the same cost, but you're actually getting less. And then skimpflation is actually raising prices, and at the same time offering lower quality service or lower quality product in order to protect those margins. And how is that mentality and that trend affecting product management? While we're going through that, we're also doing our regular good morning. Tell me who you are and what has your attention, because since this is kind of an ask me anything and an open discussion day, it's really a good day to lean into what has your attention. So I'd really love to hear from Allison. What has your attention? Welcome back, Allison.
Good morning. My name is Allison, product manager. Product manager with Synapse Studios. It's a full service consulting agency in Phoenix, Arizona. So I work West Coast hours on the East Coast, perpetually confused about all the things time. What has my attention? I have a new client project that's onboarding. And so my head has been around that and really walking through their business model, understanding, right, what are we doing here? Why do we need product? That type of situation. And so just starting to get entrenched in that, watching a lot of videos. And then I have another project that is approaching delivery. And we walked through our first pass at an MVP last week and walking and working with the devs to make sure they have what they need in order to start, forming a development plan. So those two things are in the near and immediate. And then I spent the weekend making my presentations for a very interesting event next weekend.
Woo! So excited.
And I'm gathering feedback on that. So that just a few things going on in my world.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, welcome back. Glad to see you. And we are going to get into some really good questions today too. Yeah, I wonder what that could be. ProductCamp Atlanta, October 15th.
That's right.
Allison's coming to town.
I am coming to town.
Those of us watching us on, for those of you watching us on YouTube and who aren't in here and are new to Product Coffee is a global community of product managers. But we started in Atlanta as part of ProductCamp Atlanta, and has just kind of expanded to this global community. So you'll hear us talk about a lot of Atlanta things, but we're no longer just about Atlanta. Allison, where'd you say you're from? Tell everybody where you're from again.
The middle of the woods, Virginia, but more
Middle
importantly,
of the woods, Virginia.
Geographically outside of Richmond. So if
We
you're familiar.
even get out to Walden for Product Coffee.
Okay,
So-
see, yep, that's good. Yeah. So, and I mean, I've really enjoyed this community. I know you all are in other locations than where I am. You know, Faith is also outside of the Atlanta area as
Yep.
well. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. This community has been fantastic. I can't sing your praises enough.
Well, thank you. Oh, sure you can. Keep trying. You'll get there eventually. No, I'm just kidding.
Absolutely.
I'm just kidding. And yeah, we had a happy hour in Chicago. Was that just last week? That was just like less than a week ago. Holy cow! And Greg and Faith were there, so that was awesome. We had quite a few other new friends show up to that. Looking forward to seeing them on the calls here soon as well. But I do want to switch over and say hi to Holly Jewell, who was in here dancing her head off this morning with us. And Holly, I know you've got some perspective on what Hector was talking on Hector's question. And I'd also like to hear what has your attention.
Ironically, that's actually mostly what has my attention. And George here as well. Hi, I'm Holly Jewell. I am product management for global sales ops at NCR, where we are hosting ProductCamp Atlanta. So if you're in the Atlanta area and you don't show up, I will find you. You should come. It'll make things easier for both of us. Allison, I'm so glad that you joined this morning. So there was another woman on the call. I always feel like I'm with all my brothers on these calls. I have 4, so it's always good times. But Jason, just a little pro tip, that line about been around the block a few times, that means something different potentially.
Okay, fair enough.
Women. So you might just back off of that one. The scene one was fine, but been around the block a few times is not something you usually say to women. Yeah. Let's see, where else? So Hector, your pricing question, yeah, we're seeing that a lot, both in terms of our services, same things, Matt, kind of as what you were describing, but certainly on the product side. So since I have all of the internal tools and the contracting applications, which George Pierce on my team supports as a product owner, that's almost all of what we are getting, right, is, sitting on workshops and teams trying to figure out how to implement changes to our global pricing to incorporate the changes in cost on the hardware side, on the software side too, right? Because labor costs and things, we've shrunk teams, we've had to change things around. So even the software costs are being impacted as well, but obviously hardware and physical goods are certainly more so. And then the really interesting part to me and what's really got my attention right now is that it's really driven us, from an NCR perspective, to have a need, Matt, to your point on the customer's focus on price. They're not just doing that with new sales. They're getting really good at going back to that badly written contract that you were probably on cocaine when you wrote back in the 70s, and finding the little sentence here where they can just really get it to you. So we are really having a need to go back through our contracts and getting some really challenging asks from the business on, how can we make sure this language is always in there? Or if this product, this, then this, all these kinds of very intelligent toggles, which is brilliant because we, one of our tools, in my group is the contract system that we have that can do that. It has the smarts to do that, the way we've implemented it. But it's sitting there trying to go through all those requirements and trying to understand those things and think about things like CPI, oh my gosh, consumer pricing index language, right? And how you want to implement that. And oh gosh, it's not that there should just be CPI plus a cap, right? But now we really see a need for CPI plus a floor, because what about when CPI isn't enough to cover your costs as a company, right? So that's definitely on my list.
Very, very good. So highly related there. How you're managing those things and how you're actually solving for those problems becomes a really complex problem, especially in the financial services industry, as NCR is. So I'd love to hear some of the creative strategies that you're thinking about to solve for that as we get deeper in.
Yeah, I mean, all the self-checkouts just won't have scanners anymore. That's the first
Yeah.
thing. You don't need that, right?
Is that inflation?
Yeah, you might know if they don't have the hand scanners, got rid of those.
You have to key in the UPC code yourself as you get to the checkout.
Only 1 in every 20 people uses the hand scanner. And actually, this one is a fun fact. There was a study done on that. And so you will see less self-checkouts that have hand scanners because.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
They're not very used. So you can just call somebody over. I mean, it may take you 20 minutes to get their attention and get them to come to you, right? But sorry, I'm laughing, but yes, they will come and they can scan that giant bag of cat food that you can't figure out how to shove through the scanner on the unit. So, but that is an example, right, Hector, to your, I think skimpflation, right? Where it's making different choices in what's in the product out of the box. It's not to say that Target can't choose to buy a self-checkout unit that has those parts, but it's packaged differently. It's not coming off the shelf with that. That's an upgrade. That's an extra thing, right? You need to add that in. So I think that definitely goes to your pricing model point.
That really kind of puts a fine point on not only the pricing model itself, but it kind of comes back around to one of the answers around Hector's question and how it's affecting product management. So I used to work with a guy named Chris Hott. He was the CTO at a company called Acoustic, and he's now over at Park Mobile. And one of the things that Chris was really focused in on was removing things that are not being used from the code base. And it was just from a cost and an effort standpoint. And Hector, when it comes to product management, I think if you look at the concept of skimpflation and pivot it just a little bit, one of the things that actually come to light is the need as product managers to control costs by going really deep and making sure that we are removing products and services that require support, but aren't being used in a proper way, that we're not getting a return on investment on, becoming really ruthless about cutting out low value parts of our product to reduce our cost, which means that reduces the number of people that are needed to support it on the software side. And that's actually putting kind of a positive point on the notion of skimpflation and the need for product managers to become even more diligent about killing off parts of the product that aren't relevant anymore. So if very few consumers are using hand scanners, there's a real opportunity to remove some complexity from the marketplace, remove some complexity from the product, and remove some cost from the product itself as well. That's a great example, Harley. Thank you so much for bringing it in.
Mm-hmm.
Let's switch over here and say hello to, you've got a camera on. If your camera's on, I want to hear from you. I want to ask you to introduce yourself, tell us what has your attention, and jump in on any of these topics that we're talking about. And then I've got a few questions that I definitely want to get out in front of this audience today as well. But let's say hi to Faith Peterson. Faith, welcome back. I just saw you in person last week.
You're on mute.
I always make everything mute. By default. It always backfires because I always forget. No, it was great seeing you guys in person. Holly, you were there too. It was awesome. And so I'm probably not going to be in Atlanta like I was originally hoping. So I'm sad about that. But if I can fix the travel problem that came up, I might still try to do it. But I don't know.
I will try on camera. I can do this.
We'll see. So I think most of us, I think I've met most of you, but I'm a product manager. I'm based in Chicagoland. I work for a company in HR tech. We have a product that helps HR teams manage their interactions with candidates and hiring teams. What has my attention right now? So much. We recently launched a new feature, so we're involved in trying to, trying to figure out how we can measure the impact of that new feature on the uptake. So we've been doing some work there. We are about to launch a new product, which is like, just doesn't happen very often, but that's exciting. So I'm involved with our marketing team when we're working on, creating the sub brand for the new product, and just exciting stuff. We're about to implement Mixpanel for product analytics. It's been a dream of mine for the last 2.5 years. So we're finally gonna, and I was able to talk my boss into the growth plan instead of the pre-plan, so we get that nifty sounding impact report. So So that's exciting. And then once this stuff settles, I'm going to be starting work on finalizing plans for another new feature that is going to really kind of redefine the way our customers interact with our product. So lots of big stuff. Like there was lots and lots of nothing, and now lots and lots of something. So that's exciting.
Lots and lots of nothing goes to lots and lots of something. So mixed panel, were you involved in the selection of that, or is that just kind of an organizational decision and you're kind of on the nation?
I was involved in the selection. We were kind of there was a strong factor in favor of it, specifically that we have kind of a, I don't know how you describe this really. We basically, our development is it's a managed service that we contract. And so we did look at Amplitude briefly and Pendo, and not only was the cost structure, the fee structure prohibitive for us, but also our dev team had no experience with those, but they did have in-house experience with mixed panel. So we are gonna try. We're gonna try to integrate it with Google Tag Manager so that we get some of the benefits of like self-service analytics definition, which was the biggest drawback to me. That's the biggest thing I was concerned about with mixed panel, was having to go back to dev every time we needed a new event.
Right.
So the Google Tag Manager integration is supposed to solve that problem, but I don't know how well our particular software is going to support it. So Jason, was there something else you were going to suggest? I mean, that was a big factor for us.
No, I think I'm curious a question around your experience, and I'm wondering if anybody else on the call has experience.
Your audio is really weird, Jason. Is it just me?
Hang on.
Is anyone else hearing like?
Yeah, it's weird. It's
Yes,
weird.
it does.
Here.
No, it's not better. Faith, I was just gonna say you should definitely come to Product Camp Atlanta because I'm looking at the Google building. We can sort this out. I know people there. By which I mean I crash there and eat there all the time.
Well, maybe I should plan on coming a day early and we can do a
we can work
session.
Then it becomes a business trip. How's that sound?
It's so weird. I had a conference last week on Zoom.
I agree, Jerry. Nectar.
Jason, yeah.
How's that? Any better?
That's
Much
100%.
better. Much better.
All right. Let's
I was
see here. Let's see.
Really
we got
worried you were in the middle of being converted to the Borg, and it was very scary.
more. I'm really more on the Cyberman side, but okay. Yeah. So yeah, Faith, the reason I was asking is I was just kind of curious to understand what your experience had been so far. And I know one of the things that is often great about products like that, the specific one that you're implementing, and some others that I've looked at, even Pendo, and what's the one that I've used, WalkMe, just lots of different products that do different things that are intended to be fairly turnkey to get answers and solutions to common software problems. When it comes to actual implementation, it's rarely as straightforward as we'd like it to be, as the sales materials say that it will be. I know we implemented a few different technologies back at Acoustic and IBM that ended up being very large, very long development projects just to get things restructured into a way that we could use them. And I think that's actually probably a really good topic for us to hit on a longer discussion on Product Coffee in the future as well, about what are some best practices about implementing some of these new technologies. And I know we've got some good friends at Pendo, and we've got some good friends at WalkMe, and we've got some good friends at Google, to Holly's point, that have seen product managers and product development teams struggle with these implementations. And I think there's likely to be a good best practices discussion as we're all trying to get better insight and better interactions with our users. So I was just kind of curious about your experience so far and what some of the issues that you were thinking about were. So we've kind of pivoted it past our morning networking, but we're doing it a little bit differently today. We're doing product copy a little bit differently today anyway, simply because almost everyone on the call, as a matter of fact, everyone on the call that I see has been here many times before. And so the introductions are a little bit different. We're kind of leaning into what has your attention. And since the nature of today's call is an ask me anything type discussion anyway, I just really wanted to pick it off in that first half an hour and start with some really interesting questions. And Hector asked the question specifically, how is shrinkflation or skimpflation impacted product management? We had a pretty interesting discussion about that. Someone might want to bring that back to the surface. Matt was talking about the continual trade-offs between getting a product ready to launch. When is it good enough to launch? And that gets really into the lean product thinking to a great degree, is how can we iterate towards something that has actually achieved a viable product, truly viable product. I know a lot of us have talked about over the time, the term MVP, minimum viable product, has been overused to the point of becoming, in many people's opinion, a destructive term, because it means how much can we skimp on getting something to market, when the real idea around a minimum viable product is I'm moving towards something that is actually viable. It is, and how do I determine when I've reached the minimum viable product? It's by continuing to lean in and add capabilities or add development firepower until you get to a point that the product is now viable. And what is the least point of that? You can have a hypothesis about what it is, but only the market will prove you right or wrong. So one of the other topics that came up that I did not prepare for at all, but was really interesting, we were talking a little about Skynet and AI in general. And there was I saw a news story this morning on this new AI Bill of Rights. Has anybody seen or heard about this yet? So the current United States presidential administration, the Biden administration, is now promoting and talking about this concept of an AI Bill of Rights. And it is intended to drive some practices and conversation around how companies responsibly deploy artificial intelligence or machine learning. And do consumers have the right to know when AI is being used to look at their data? Should they be notified and given the right to opt out? And how would that affect us in the product management space, as so much technology is leaning more and more on predictive analytics, machine learning, and ultimately AI? The framework that's been proposed by the Biden administration, I read a summary of a much longer article. I have not read the AI Bill of Rights, but we can talk about it a little bit conceptually as one of our topics this morning. Is the general summary is the Biden administration's proposal is not legislation. It's not an executive order. It is essentially a discussion framework. It is to say, hey, here are the things that we think we should be talking about at some point from a legislative perspective and in a policy perspective about how we deploy AI. Last week or the week before, there was a story in the New York Times criticizing LinkedIn for secretly using machine learning algorithms and changing the experience of job seekers on the LinkedIn platform, as people were being presented opportunities and having how different individuals were being presented to potential employers. They were running some testing algorithms to determine what would ultimately give the job seeker the better experience. And they were doing this without people's knowledge, and they learned a lot of things from it. And there was some criticism that LinkedIn was messing with people's career, potentially messing with people's careers without their knowledge, by running these tests. At the same time, the New York Times routinely uses A/B testing to determine which headline is going to get you to click through. So I think there's a really interesting discussion to be had about the ethics of AI and how aware consumers need to be when AI or machine learning is being used in your product that will impact their experience. And Allison's hand went straight up when I started talking about this. So Allison, jump in.
Only I don't know that I knew about the AI Bill of Rights, but I totally rabbit holed on the LinkedIn thing last week, and it's in one of my presentation decks. So, and I went to
Awesome.
a conference the end of last week, and Carol Smith spoke there, and she was speaking about ethics and emerging technology. So it's like all the things in the same vein. But one thing that she said, she's talking through the ethics and what is ethics and how do we apply it when we're building software. But something that I thought really stood out for me, especially from a product lens, is when we are building something or changing something existing, how are we shifting power? We're taking it away from someone and giving it to someone else. And thinking through that experience, like that, to me, that's one question. I'm like, okay, well, if we take this button away or we take this entire product away, who are we taking the power away from and giving it to? And then another set of things that I wrote down was having like explicit permission, but prompting conversation. I'm going to go find the link for you and drop it in chat. But there was a lovely chat last week on a podcast I listened to with Joni Ive, I've got a blank, Steve Jobs' widow, and all three of them, and Tim Cook, and they were talking through like their responsibility to privacy. And I think that also would be a tangential read off of this conversation as well. So I'll share that.
Oh, thank you so much. And if you would drop it in the notes document as well. And I didn't even do our regular intro, which I should probably actually do a little bit and give our sponsors some love.
Yep.
But we do have the productcoffee.com/notes document for everybody. And I noticed there are already people in there. You've got to have it. And I do not know right now who the Anonymous Badger is, but I got great love for Anonymous Badger who's in here, and Anonymous Lemur who are in here dropping some notes in already. Thank you so much. So let's thank our sponsors real quickly and then get back into this. But Product Coffee is, these weekly programs, they're free for everyone to attend. We have a premium group for some of our more in-depth programming, like our stakeholder management workshop that we're running. It's actually gone from being a 2-hour workshop to being a 4-hour workshop split across 2 weeks. And Product Coffee members get access to that for free if you're a premium member, $250 a year, or you can buy just a single workshop for $100 to $200, depending on the workshop. But the free programming that we have here, we got a lot of great free programming, and it is made possible by some fantastic sponsors, including Method. And Method is a design, strategy, and product development agency. I'm an employee of Method in my day job. And what we do is we work with our clients to help them develop software strategies, software product strategies, and improve their maturity on the modern product development discipline, while helping them deliver products that will really improve the lives and experiences of both their internal stakeholders, their customers, sometimes their employees, and also the market as a whole. And we're working on some really cool stuff with our clients, helping them bring modern product practices into their practice. And then we also have the Product Management University, which is which is a fantastic new resource for product managers that is founded and created by John Mansour, who's a longtime friend of ProductCamp and Product Coffee. He's been training product managers for decades. And John has launched the Product Management University, which gives you online certification and training programs for product management, especially focused on B2B technology product management. But he's got a lot of self-paced, Product Management University has a lot of self-paced product management training, including demo training. How can I deliver awesome demos as a product professional? and some really great stuff for you to check out there. And feature Upvote, who hosts our ideas forum at productcoffee.com/ideas. This is a great way for you to get customer feedback and real voice of the customer perspective from your customers in a really fast and easy way. You can implement this in about 15 minutes. Featureupvote.com to start collecting feedback from your customers on what they'd like to see improved or changed about your product. They can vote on it and have discussions with you about their recommendations, and you can choose how to act on them and communicate right there, all within a very simple, easy to implement platform. And then, and today, for those just joining us at Product Coffee, we're having an open mic, Ask Me Anything discussion today. We're just dropping in the topics that are fresh on our mind and having some coffee and talking about interesting product management topics. We've got a few that we kind of seeded the discussion with. We've had a question specifically around how shrinkflation or skipflation has impacted product management. We're going to talk a little bit about the trade-offs between the decision making as we're going towards getting a product good enough to launch, and how to evaluate some of those decisions. Have we gotten to a minimum viable product? We're talking a little bit about an AI Bill of Rights, and we've got a few other topics too. So let's hear what's interesting to the folks on the call today, and we're going to dig in on the topics that matter. And you will see that there's a very deep conversation or a deep notes experience going on as well at productcoffee.com/notes. You can jump in there, and as we have questions, thoughts, resources that come up on the call, everybody on the call is jumping in there and helping to record those as we go. But I do want to thank everybody for joining. We're going to get back into the conversation, except I am not going to be on that screen. One moment here. Get the right camera turned on. There we go. Boom. So we caught Holly
right on the
undressing. So hey, Soumya, you have your hand up. I want to so let's jump in here. Good morning, Soumya. Welcome back.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, touched a nerve on the AI thing this morning, and I'm right there on Allison. It is becoming more of an ethical issue rather than anything else. So I would recommend all of us who are in the AA world to touch up on our ethics and model training and everything else. One thing that bothers me is using your data mining objects, right? Like all your data, and coming up with some great ideas is a completely different thing than manipulating somebody's data. So you just have to draw a very strict line against how much are you affecting the other party or the user's data, who you are taking it from, right? I have worked on AI ML projects where we have used users' data to better the product, right? But not individually go manipulate the data without the users or the customer's permission to give them something good. We do not manipulate the actual data that is available, but use it to get some kind of a data pointers and analytical points to do something better. So the line is becoming thin, right? Where do you stop and where you don't understand it? So I'm always concerned about it. So any AI tool, AI projects ask a lot of questions, even the tools that we use in our daily life, right? Analytical team, especially using analytical tools and reporting tools, you're talking to the vendors, try to understand as much as possible before you actually let them inside. When the vendors are having conversation, when they're coming to just sell their product to us, at least the company there where I'm working right now in Brightree, they do a good job of not just having one or two product managers. The entire product team sits and decides on a vendor buy. We just don't take it lightly. So ask as many questions, be very critical beforehand rather than having them inside and then struggling through that relationship. We have done past mistakes and they are learning from it. We have certain vendors that we use that we don't know how to get rid of or how to switch now because we are so deep into trouble with them. But that is something that I'm always, at least these days, I'm very cautious about.
Yeah. I like how you're distinguishing how you're using AI and pointing. I mean, it's true. There are different ethical considerations depending on the usage, and just using AI to gather insights and then make decisions as humans sounds like one kind of bucket. And then there's the notion of using AI to influence behavior and influence data in a more direct manner that has a completely different or more advanced set of considerations. I do want to read out here one of the notes that we have in the chat for those who are watching and aren't seeing the chat. Greg said that when it comes to the LinkedIn story, that's kind of how A/B testing works. If they introduce new designer features, they might end up creating a worse experience for all users and not have the data to know whether they've made things better or worse. LinkedIn is not a job search, and it's probably not the single determining factor in most people's job search. It's just one tool that job seekers have. Absolutely agree, Greg. And the notion of A/B testing certainly is something that's been around for a while, and it provides that kind of insight that we still have to make decisions on. I was working on a product a few years ago that was really trying to use AI to make personalization decisions and decide what content we're going to show a user automatically based on everything that we know about them from every data source that we actually have. And all the data that we had was opt-in, permission-based data. Consumers and customers had given us this information and had given us permission to use this information in various ways, some implicit, some explicit. And then we were aggregating that data in some new and novel ways to make determinations about what content to actually show them, whether that be in a shopping scenario like you would see in Amazon, what products should I show you, or what articles, or even what wording should I use in this article or in this paragraph to influence you in the right way. There's definitely the art, and using AI to process that information and make those decisions at scale was one of the core tenets of what we were working on. The criticism is, well, you're now putting a whole bunch of data together in a way of and using it in a way that, as a typical consumer, I can't quite grok. I can't quite get my head around. I gave you permission to use my location data so that you could offer me location contextual options. I don't know that I necessarily gave you permission to use my location data so that you could understand where I've been and offer me content that you predict is more interesting to me because I have been to Hawaii at some point in my life. And that's kind of an extreme example. And so that brings a lot of those considerations into effect. Is we are using the same data that we were using before, and we've got permission to use the data, but we're using it in a new way. And how much does the consumer need to have control over how we use it? And is it good that we're innovating with that, or is it not so good that we're innovating with that? And how do we draw the balance? Holly, you've got your hand up, so jump on in.
I don't know how to lower it. Oh, hey, I did a thing.
I can fix that.
My comment was a little ways back, I think, kind of to where, Faith and Allison, you were, as well as others, also talking. Greg, I totally agree. I know you have to keep it down for the fan, but totally a great point. But it's the using things for good versus bad, right? And the difference between, I appreciate all the points on where we're using AI to change a user experience, right? We're maybe making something better. A great example of that could be where, for example, you're making sure that someone's really getting the product that they need, right? You're using some deeper AI to look at where are they at, what type of configuration of that product are they going to need based on things like location and their preferences and how you see they're using their systems or their computer, right? What is their operating system? Things like that. That could be, a little stalkerish that you're looking at all that data, but you're helping them get the right thing, right? Versus, I made a crack earlier in the chat or here on the call about the AI and the self-checkout I was talking about, and I've talked about it a little bit in the notes document. It getting to a level where it's it is to, your point, Allison, on changing the power, but then there's the argument, again, use it for good. If you're changing the power in a situation where the AI is able to prevent someone from doing something that arguably they shouldn't be doing to start with, right? They have the power to shoplift, but is that really, a bad thing if you're preventing someone from shoplifting, right? But it is taking the AI to a level where it's I don't know how to describe it to you guys except just creepy. I've helped lab test this thing. The things it's noticing, the things it's flagging are really impressive, but also very Skynet, right? So it is to me a very cautious line, and I think about it a lot because in a lot of my systems and a lot of my products, we're using AI on different levels, not just the external market ones like the self-checkout unit at NCR that I mentioned. So that was really where my hand was at.
Got it. Cool. Faith. Oh, you're still on mute.
Okay, product idea for anyone in the industry. I'm sure this exists. In fact, I think if I had my Blue Yeti plugged in, I could put it into a mode where it would just automatically detect my voice, except I think it would detect all of your voices, so that would be bad.
And all the other dogs and cats and the kids running around too. I thought about it when you were saying I'm always on a mute call. I'm like, oh, we should have an AI tool. And I struck it right away because my daughter is just zooming through my office room. I'm like, nope, not happening.
Right, great use for AI. Only unmute if it's me.
Voice detectable, right? Like identify only the person's voice who was wearing the headset or who is in front of a laptop.
Right, something like that.
Great AI use case.
I wanted to mention, because I am in HR, this is an area where it's kind of buzzy for AI. And
Faith, I have to delete everything I've said in the last hour. Continue.
So one thing that there's kind of two big areas. And so one thing I've been resisting in our company, but some other companies are kind of leaning into, is the idea of using AI to like pre-evaluate candidates, especially in asynchronous video interviews, which is, a big thing now. And so there's obviously some inherent risks there. There's, race and gender-based risks, as well as just risks about like neurodivergence and just the normal human differences in how people express themselves, because people are using AI to judge how excited you might be about the job, how confident are you in your answer. There's a lot of subtlety to some of the things that people are trying to use. And then if, let's say there's 100, and we all know there can be hundreds of applicants for a certain job, one of the side effects of video interviewing is that companies tend to screen a lot more candidates than they used to. And as a result, there can be a lot more people in this initial screening process. And if usually the AI, what they do is kind of say, well, it's AI, it's assisted. It's human assisted AI, meaning out of the 100, the AI is going to suggest to you the 10 or 20 that it thinks are probably the most suited or have the best, best video interview. And then the HR person is supposed to review those and has the option of choosing a candidate who wasn't in those recommended set. But kind of the question is, in reality, is anyone going to look at any that aren't in that recommended set? No one really has time. So there is this kind of filtering effect that can happen. The other thing is that companies are starting to use this in the area of employee engagement, and using your presence on video calls to judge your level of commitment to the company, your likelihood of leaving your job, things that are that we're not accustomed to our employers necessarily having ready access to, or that, so there are AI products right now that people are deploying around employee engagement. So kind of for this purpose, and are they revealing that to the employees that they're now monitoring for those kinds of characteristics? That's kind of an area of exploration. So where I've been trying to lean more is in the area of helping helping HR leaders make the HR function more effective. So looking at trends in aggregate, things like, is there a particular time of the week when people are more likely to complete, respond to an invitation to do an on-demand interview, for example. But one thing I've been advocating for is to be very careful that we, kind of guide our customers away from inquiries that have to do, where there could be more, bias or negative effects sort of built in. I do see that a lot of companies are trying to actively fix AI issues as they become aware. I mean, Google's recent changes to their camera software, I think they're marketing it as like True Tone, is I think a big step forward. And I think that's kind of in this ethical AI realm. And the last thing I want to mention, because I know other people want to jump in, but we haven't really touched on, is kind of the public or societal risks of AI when it comes to, there's more I could say on the LinkedIn topic, but to move on, there's kind of this bigger issue about what information people have available to them, what information is offered to us. And, it's kind of true in the LinkedIn issue, like what people does it recommend to you to follow? What post does it recommend to you to read? What jobs does it suggest might be suitable for you? And then in the broader picture, like what, YouTube's video recommendations, what does it offer me? Well, you know what, lately it offers me a whole lot of left drama, like political commentary drama, because I kind of lean that way, but I don't necessarily want to see all that. And I certainly don't get a balanced, perspective. And, this extends kind of into that world of deep fakes. And, how do you know what's the integrity of the information that you're seeing? What's the integrity of the interactions that you're having supposedly with, people that you believe to have a certain background or certain information, and it could be that nothing is really kind of as it seems. So I kind of applaud this initiative that the administration is proposing, because I think it's important that we have a conversation about disclosure and how you can know what you're consuming and why it's being offered to you. So anyway, off that soapbox, I'm going to go back on mute. I'll probably forget that I'm there again, but I'll let other folks jump in.
No, I do want to kind of like, there's so many different directions that we can take this conversation. This was kind of not the agenda today, but I think it's a really great conversation for product managers and product people to be having. So I'm kind of glad we've kind of pivoted over this way. And I'm going to get to Jerry and Hector in just a minute, but I think there are a couple things that I want to insert here as well. And John took his hand, Jerry took his hand down. John Connor, did you get?
No, I thought you called
eliminated.
No, I thought you called.
No, not yet. Not
so
yet.
I took it down.
No, give me a second. Almost. Okay. So but with what Faith was saying, it kind of brought a couple of questions to mind, because we've talked about different flavors of what could be termed AI. And we've talked about kind of some early predictive and detection type of things, everything from, there's A/B testing, and then there is automatically picking a winner in A/B testing. So you've got an A/B testing scenario that's running, and you determine a winner, and so you automatically start showing the winner. And that's not AI, that's just a testing algorithm. And then there's a notion of multivariate testing, and there's also a notion of I'm drawing a mental blank on it. I worked on this stuff for a long time, but there's a notion in testing where you're kind of continuously testing and continuously watching for changes. And so the winner may change over time if you're looking at, say, a headline. And a headline that worked really well in 2019 might work very differently in 2020. And so you kind of have this continuous observation, and you start changing and learning over time as norms shift. Does that cross into the level of AI? What is the real distinction between machine learning and AI? And do the ethical issues and questions change? Or is AI just a really fun science fiction concept that what we're really talking about is machine learning? that drives the answers that we might have. And so I just kind of throwing that out there, drives the perspective on ethics that we might have. Is there a difference between AI and machine learning from an ethical perspective? So think about that. I'd love to hear some thoughts on that. And Jerry, now I'm calling on you.
All right. First of all, I could listen to Faith talk about stuff all day. So we should have a product coffee session where Faith can just share what she's thinking about.
Be careful what you wish
I think
for.
we have a nomination. I think we have a nomination for a guest host, and Jason takes the week off.
Well, in all seriousness, Faith is an expert on green and sustainability issues. There could be a lot to what you just suggested, Jason. Sorry, Faith, didn't mean to put you on the spot. But that's what you get when you're an expert. Second, I think we need to be honest, intellectually honest, and realize this is not theory. It's not just about testing. People are getting hurt today because of lousy, unethical uses of AI. People are not getting mortgages. Call center employees are losing their jobs because their supervisor was told by the AI that they were not engaged enough. They were not behaving correctly on calls. And oh, look, I've got the data right here. On so many % of your calls, your affect was depressed, and so this is not theory anymore. This is like in your face. And then the third thing is, since this community is really a gatekeeper for so much of in your own worlds what gets released for actually used by humans, I encourage you to consider in your moments of reflection how you step up to the plate to be an ethical gatekeeper in the use of this technology, because I assure you that if it's left entirely up to the business leadership, it will just run away from us.
Yeah, because when the business leadership is, you're going to be, as a business leader, you're going to be focused on what you're being measured on.
Yeah.
And so unless you're being measured on something that is going to tie back to ethical perspectives and social responsibility, and if you're only being measured on more hard data, quantitative success metrics, it's going to be very easy to fall into a trap. Yeah. And you can even take AI and ML out of the equation. Look at what happened with Wells Fargo a few years back when people were being incented to open accounts, and that's what you were being measured on, is opening accounts. And all of a sudden you had a lot of unethical behavior because that's what you were being measured on. And yeah, that's an extreme example, but it is an important distinction to bring to light, that part of the solution is making sure that your business leaders are being measured on the right things that maintain that responsibility as a key priority for the business.
Yeah. Well, I think the line that's been crossed for a lot of people is that so much of this is transparent and invisible to them. It used to be that if you got rung up at the call center and you felt you were unjustly fired, you could have a claim, an inquest, there could be an inquiry, there could be a judgment, there could be some oversight, some appeal to a higher group in the organization. Now, when the supervisor says you're not engaged, you can't crack open the black box on the algorithm and see it. The person that got fired can't see it, and so you don't even know. The person that doesn't get the mortgage doesn't get to examine the algorithm the bank used. So we've crossed the line into this broad use of thinking algorithms that can't be examined by the person being affected. And that's where I think, we need people of good conscience to step up and stand at the gate before these things get released and say, do we really want to do this? does this really represent the highest and best use of our assets to do this to people? I mean, I could go on, I won't, but I think yeah, that's my soapbox.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you, Jerry. And there's a lot of commentary going on in the chat as well. And we've got a lot of good notes in the notes document. I want to make sure, and we'll try to do a run through this after the call today and make sure that all these links that are in the chat make it into the notes document as well, so everybody's got a permanent record. I want to jump back up to a little bit of what you were talking about, Jerry, but Greg made a comment here in the chat that I just absolutely loved, and I want to find it so I quote it exactly. Unless he can come off mute, and I know that Greg is not able to get on mute right now, or get off mute for the moment. Here we go. Nope, that's not it. Greg said that being bored in meetings and staring out the window and being bored in meetings is a time-honored tradition, and using AI to detect that crosses a line. I loved it. I can't find the exact quote, so I paraphrase from memory, but we'll find that at some point. It was wonderful. I do want to, Hector, I'm going to come back around to you in just a moment, but I do want to also insert another question in here that's on a different topic. Well, I'll tell you what, let's do this. Hector, why don't you take 30 seconds and let's kind of call it, let's put a pin in the AI conversation for a moment. So why don't you wrap us up on the AI conversation?
Yeah, so I would say that I'm on board with the previous both Faith and Jerry on this, that we need stronger ethical intelligence all throughout. And as product managers, we should lead by example. Be the whistleblower when you need to be a whistleblower. If you know that there are things that are not right going on within your own organization, and it takes strength. It's not being meek. It's actually real strength to go against the grain when this may be part of a company's behavior. There are plenty of examples that have led to loss of lives and livelihoods. Boeing, if you think what happened to Boeing and why they're trying to dig themselves out, is because they actually implemented something that was a minimum viable expert system that was completely undocumented, undisclosed, and it actually took over control from humans that were, when they were supposed to be paying attention, and that led to several crashes. And that's on them, right? They allowed the developers to go out to production on this when they knew that it could cost lives, and no one could have predicted that, except for people that had already trusted Boeing to be the right provider. And I think there's going to be years before they actually get back and may be broken up. I mean, they're right now scrambling and depending more on B2G government work on space, because they're really hurting. And that's unfortunate because they're one of the world leaders. But this can actually impact even smaller organizations and can drive them out of business. Unethical behavior will actually drive the entire company in the wrong direction in a way that is just irreversible. If you look at what Twitter is going on right now, why are they losing value? Is because there's something going on, and they know that the spread of misinformation is always going to be there. Basic 101 is that it doesn't matter what the technology is, whether it's new or proven technology. I think that as product managers, we need to be leaders of ensuring that we raise the level of ethical intelligence within the organizations where we work.
Yep. Thank you very much for landing that plane. I agree with what you just said. That's a great perspective and a great way to kind of bring this at least in for a gentle landing at the moment. Soumya also said one word: empathy. Put yourself in the end user affected party's shoes and then decide whether we still want to do it. I found Greg's exact quote, which was, being bored during meetings is a time-honored tradition, and using AI to police it is crossing a line. So that's t-shirt material right there. So
I need that on a coffee mug.
There you go. And
Looking forward while you were
maybe
talking
even
is my right.
as a Zoom background image as well to just kind of sit behind me all the time. But I don't want to cover up my new product coffee sign. So
Did
we have.
anyone notice the sign? Sorry, Jason.
I got a couple. I got a couple of notes. I got a note from Soumya as well about that. So we got the. If some of you remember from the early days of Product Coffee, we had this sign from FedEx office sitting in the background with the old logo. And when we got the new logo, I took it down and I've kept it kind of for posterity. But I've been waiting to get the neon sign in the background. So it came in this last weekend, and so I couldn't wait to get back from Chicago and plug it in and mount it up on the wall. So it's pretty awesome. So
It's a bit of a different session, but I really think the next one or the next big workshop, you really need to like make a big deal out of the sign at the beginning. Like play I saw the sign, everything. Like,
I like it. I like it. Have to see if I can get that tune licensed. And it can get really bright too, and it can flash and stuff like that and give people seizures. It's amazing. It's powerful stuff. So one of the things we had a question come up in the chat, and let's switch back over to the Product Camp conversation for a minute. So quite a few of the people on the call today are in Atlanta. Quite a few people, if you're not in Atlanta, I want to talk about what Product Camp is and what we've got coming up on October 15th here in Atlanta. And there's also an event coming up. And Hector, is it October 29th that the Product Camp Online event is? Is that the right date?
Yes, I will share that via the chat.
Thanks. So Product Camp is a product management unconference. And an unconference basically means that there are no planned keynotes. It's not curated content. It is everyone who shows up to the event is responsible for helping make the event success. And that means that a huge percentage of or all of the content is generated by the actual attendees and participants of the content. You heard at the beginning of the call, Allison was proposing a session. Kira's planning a session. I know Holly and I and Soumya. Faith, if she makes it down, has some sessions. The way Product Camp works is we show up on a Saturday morning. This time it's going to be at NCR headquarters in Midtown Atlanta. And if you have not seen this building, it's amazing. It is a fantastic venue, and it's going to be an exciting day just for that. Hector, I don't know if you're planning on coming in. We'd love to see you in person. But everybody shows up, and at the beginning of the day, we do pitches. And anyone who is interested in leading a session or just participating in a certain kind of session has the opportunity to stand up in front of the audience, everybody who showed up, and say, here's what I'd like to talk about, here's what I'd like to learn about, or here's what I'd like to teach today. Then everybody who shows up gets to vote. And we do a really rapid fire type of a voting approach and build a schedule based on the content that was offered and the people who showed up, what they wanted to see and hear on that day. And then we'll go all day teaching and learning from each other. I've had some really fun questions. At the first Product Camp Atlanta, I reached out to a bunch of people, including the CEO of a company called Racimi at the time. And he came back to me and said, okay, so let me get this straight. You want me to prepare a presentation or a talk, show up at 8:30 on a Saturday morning, and I may or may not get to actually present? I said, yep, that's right. He thought about it. Said, I love it. I'm in. And he came and he did a great session. It is a completely different style of conference if you've never been to an unconference. Product Camp Atlanta is free to attend. Everybody who joins, everybody who comes, there's no cost unless you're traveling in, then you got your travel expense. But it is a day of food, fun, and learning for product people, whether you're a product manager, a UXer, a researcher, a product developer. It is here for us to learn and help each other build better products and become more impactful in our profession. On a Saturday together, building networks and and relationships in the process of doing so. So I did want to kind of open up the floor and see, are there other questions? So I would like to share, I'd like to, if anybody else has anything to add or any other questions that you'd like to ask about Product Camp, I would love to hear those, and we'll see what we can do to answer them. I'm also going to pull up a list of some of the sessions that we've got proposed so far this year, and kind of we'll talk about a little bit of some of the things you might hear about and learn about at Product Camp Atlanta. Any questions? Just jump in.
I'm going to pile on. I've been to Product Camp, I think 3 times. Did a session 1 time. And one of the most wonderful things about it is everybody that's there wants to be there. They're not skipping work to, go to a training thing. It's Saturday. They want to be there. It's absolutely fantastic. The only thing I don't like about it is there ends up being maybe 16 sessions and you have to pick. You can only go to like 4 of them because there's just not enough time. So it's unbelievable. I always wish it was 2 or 3 days. One can dream, and I have gotten so much out of it. It's incredible, and I just love going. I can't wait to go just to be around other product people and to be around other people that instead of a concert, but as COVID kind of is calming down, it'd be nice to be around
have your permission
people.
to clip this out and post this. We just clipped out you talking about it.
Oh, he already gave us permission to repost anything that he said on camera.
That's right.
We got that when he signed up for the session.
Ouch.
And we're doing
So you've now become a
exciting.
spokesman.
We're doing something exciting about your sessions issue, Ken. Jason, do you want to tell them about that?
Recording them?
What's that?
The problem of missing sessions when you're trying to go to
Oh, yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah. So we are doing something a little bit different this year at Product Camp, and at Product Camp Atlanta, we always do about 5 tracks or 5 time blocks of content, and generally about 4 tracks. One of the things that we're doing a little bit differently this time is we're going to take the top 2 voted sessions and we're going to turn them into keynotes. So you're going to show up, you're going to pitch your session. And if you're one of the top 2, you're going to be a keynote speaker with no competing sessions against you. So, and what will happen is the number 1 voted session will be the after lunch keynote at about 1 o'clock.
Awesome.
And the number 2 session will be the opening keynote. So everybody's there. The top 2 sessions, you're not going to have to choose between the top 2 sessions and anything else. You're going to get to go to the top 2 sessions no matter what else gets elected throughout the day. And then we'll have 3 other time blocks where we do have 4 tracks of sessions that you can choose between. So, and the space is really laid out really well for that. Allison, go ahead.
You might have just given me like another level of paranoia about what I'm putting together.
Nah, it'll be fine.
So I will share, like, I've been to other conferences, and at the moment I found you all and found that there was product flavored in conferences, I was like, the 2 best things in the world have come together. So I'm really looking forward to this next weekend. And I just told Hector I signed up for the online one. I would love to see like a regular practice. You guys do this twice a year, is that right?
So we did it twice this year. We usually do it once a year. It had been so long since we had one that we decided, and we were going to do one in the fall of last year, but once again, due to the last COVID surge, it got canceled at the last minute. So instead of waiting a whole year to go again, we did one in the spring this year.
Okay.
And we're doing one in the fall. And this time it's just going to be, and then next year we'll be back to our fall schedule. There's been some rumblings and asks for more frequency. We'll talk about that, but right now the plan is to only do a fall one next year.
Well, it's a lot to put on, so I completely get
It
the other one I do is in January typically, so that like understanding how often I'm gonna want to try and throw myself at these things. So that's good to know. Thank you. The other tiny question, I'm coming in on Friday. What can I do on Friday?
That's a great question. On Friday, we'll be having a dinner for all of our folks who are coming in from out of town. And I forgot to include that in the count list, Holly. So for venue, we have all of our sponsors, all of our Product Camp volunteers, and our Friends of Product Camp. If you bought a Friends of Product Camp ticket, and all of our out of town guests will be hosting. I call it a dinner. We'll have a heavy appetizers buffet and a drink together, and kind of hang out together.
Cool.
So that'll be on Friday evening before the event, and we'll be sending out the announcement about the location of that very shortly as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. So great question. And then we'll be at it all day Saturday, and then we'll have a happy hour at the end of the event for everybody. And that'll be great. It'll be a great time. So you will literally be around product people from 8 o'clock in the morning until you give up at the end of the day.
I think that'll be enough people for Ken, maybe. I don't know. He was saying he needed people.
We'll fill you up.
Allison, you said you're coming in on Friday. I'm going to need to know what time and text me, because there's going to be a lot to do. And,
well, yeah, so
you're going to come by the NCR building.
Yeah, well, so that was kind of my question, but I didn't want to make it like open. So I took the early bird flight, so and I may work part of the day. So I was trying to figure out, like, I'm sure the hotel may or may not let me sit in the lobby and laptop it up, but trying to figure out what to do. So I will chat you on the side, Holly, and figure that out.
Maybe bring in the sleeping bag. We'll find a spot in the NCR building.
Yeah, well, so my West Coast folks, I technically work till 7, but I was like, I'm pretty sure whatever they're going to do Friday is going to be earlier than 7. So just figuring out what I need to worry about for next week.
We have a video game lounge. I mean, whatever you need, I'm here for you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome. So, and then just for those who are looking, I pasted a link into the chat a moment ago. I'll paste it in again to make sure that you can all see it. We have a blog as people propose sessions. People propose sessions in advance.
Can you open the door? We just chat with a trigger.
Let's see here.
No, I cannot open the door.
Boom. Got it. So we've got one of the sessions that's been proposed is the importance of psychology in product management. Get to know the people behind the product. Allison has proposed a session on where did my focus go? Really talking about the physical and social costs of distraction in digital products, how they've increased, and how individuals are opting out for distraction when given the option focus or face distraction. So that's going to be a really interesting opportunity to vote on. Let's see what else. I'm just kind of cherry picking some examples. Dave Matthias is coming in from Nashville, and he's offering 10 tips to successfully leverage AI and machine learning in your products. Oh man, I guess we'll probably be getting a lot of votes for that one. So there's a whole list of session proposals that are out there at the Product Camp Sessions blog. And so you can kind of read up on those and think about them in advance, but that gives you an idea of the type of content that we're going to be have the opportunity to see at Product Camp. Art for product teams, an intro to visual thinking strategies. Steve Johnson's going to be here. Steve Johnson is the original trainer for Pragmatic Institute. He wrote a ton of their content. He's going to be here offering to talk about product marketing. Randy Clare is going to be talking about or offering a session on legacy product strategy, reskin, rebuild, or reuse. The easiest answer ever to the big question, what's on your product roadmap, by John Mansour. This is the kind of stuff that you're going to hear about and have the opportunity to learn about at Product Camp on a Saturday on October 15th. And we'll have free donuts, and we'll have lots of pizza, and we'll have lots of product people having a lot of fun together. So,
and unlimited Coke Zero.
Unlimited Coke Zero. Awesome.
That's for Kara. I will not be
drinking.
All
right.
You don't need that, Hallie.
Oh, I am powered by entirely silver can, but it is a deep political belief. Down with the black can, death to the black can. Wait, that probably shouldn't be said. Never mind.
So, hey, thanks everybody for joining. We weren't going to have a product copy this year because between travel and work or this week, I just didn't get the session set up that I wanted to get set up. And a few people encouraged me, hey, let's just do an old school sit down and talk about product stuff. So you saw the note, it came out at the very last minute. We had a much smaller crowd than usual, but it was a great session, a lot of fun conversation. I think we'll do a deeper session on AI soon as well, because I think that's a really invigorating, unstructured discussion. So maybe we'll bring it back around and go a little bit deeper as well. So we're going to wrap it for now. Once again, thank you for joining us at Product Coffee. This has been a great discussion. Loved having you all here. And we will see you next week at Product Camp. Thanks, everybody.
Hey,
Bye-bye.
Jason.
Thank you. Bye.
I don't think
Yep.
you ever should be shy about just sounding the alarm and letting this group start talking.
Yep, that's a fair point.
Clearly, it's an engaging, fascinating group that has a lot to share. So don't worry about having a program.
And that is actually how this thing started and how we grew. And I think what happened to the original Product Coffees is people we had these discussions and we'd go deep on something, and then we'd say, well, we'd really like to explore that a little bit more. And so it became more of so we started doing more formal programming. And so like right now, I see a couple of opportunities for us to go a little bit deeper on the AI topic. We saw a couple of articles posted here about the difference between AI and ML and the ethics of AI and ML. And I think that's a topic that we don't have on our agenda right now, but clearly there's a lot of passion and interest in solving for. You pointed out that Faith is a good expert on green product management, and I know a few other experts on that topic as well. And it's an emerging important topic. So I think having a session about that would be really valuable for our whole audience. But then having more of these, let's just sit around the table and talk product stuff about what's on our mind on any given day, I think is a lot of fun and valuable. So
Sweet.
Thanks everybody for joining. I got to jump to a stand-up, so we're gonna call that done for the day. Have a great week.
All right,
Bye.
later.
Just stand up. Just stand up. Come on.
I'm standing.
I think he is standing.
All right, there we go. Bye.